So, good morning. My name is Peter Draper. I'm the Solutions Engineering Manager for Swimlane. We're a low-code security automation vendor. And I want to talk to you a little bit today about automation, about how to get started on your automation journey if you're not already doing automation, and if you're already doing automation, how to go to the next stages of where you are with automation. So, we all know that the threat landscape is constantly changing. And it's really challenging for everybody to keep up with what's going on from a threat perspective, but also internally inside the organizations, in terms of changing stakeholders, changing priorities. All of those sorts of challenges give us some food for thought in terms of how we're going to improve what we do and how we manage risk. You've heard risk talked about, you've heard automate everything talked about earlier on today, and you've also heard Jen just talk about some of the challenges that they came across when they were actually dealing with a cyber attack. So, as a digital footprint for your organization changes, so does the risk. And we really need to be able to look at how do we manage that risk, but how do we also have the details of what's going on from a security perspective, from the security program, and feed that back into reporting back up to the board, because the board are getting more and more interested in the conversations that are happening around cybersecurity and getting to understand more about what's being done. So, increasing risk, the changing threat landscape, the skill shortage. Everybody's talking about the skill shortage. It's very well known. The compromises that you have to make in your organization and in your processes because of budget constraints, potentially. Competing priorities. This is the world that we live in. And companies have spent billions of dollars on trying to solve the problem, and it's still there. This is a nice, busy slide for you. But this is the security landscape, the security vendor landscape. There are so many different tools that are available. How do you know whether you're making a good choice? How do you know whether you're getting a return on investment for it? How do you get the skills in your team to be able to manage all of these things that are going to go in? And as we know, there are new vendors coming out all the time with the latest and greatest, which actually we want best of breed. So understanding all of these is a real big problem. So let's take a little bit of a look back. Quite some time ago, we started to build SOCs, Security Operations Centers, where we got the best and the brightest of our cyber guys into a room where they could start to work with the different technologies and start to understand the risks and start to work with alerts that were coming from many different systems. And then we started to get additional tools in there. And then SOAR. Anybody heard the term SOAR? They should have heard the term SOAR, but we'll talk a little bit about that. But then SOAR came into it. Probably 8-9 years ago was when SOAR first came onto the market. Who in this room actually works in a SOC? Stick your hands up. Anybody that works in a SOC? Nobody. Okay, that's different. Who's responsible for a SOC? A few bit more responsible. Who knows what a SOC is? Excellent. Get more hands on that. Who's using automation, or who's aware of using automation inside their organization? So very few hands in the whole room. Okay. Last question. How successful has that automation journey been? Anybody been 100% successful? No. 50? No? Okay, 25. Oh, excellent. So we've got something that's had some success. So automation has the ability to change and be a force multiplier for your systems. However, people have been working with security for quite some time. Here's a team that I was out celebrating with their 22nd birthday last week. They all work in a SOC because it is challenging. And we did some research with a whole bunch of different organizations, and there's some interesting things that came out of this. We know this one. Yeah, the talent shortage amplifies risk, and risk is what our businesses are all about, understanding and controlling risk. But this is the most interesting one for me. Executives in those organizations, 70% of them felt that all the alerts were being handled, but actually the frontline staff was more around about the 30-odd%. So there's a massive disconnect between that. So understanding and controlling, along with being able to report that back up the chain and getting a proper view of what you're doing is really, really important. So from an automation perspective, you want to be looking at platforms that give you all of those capabilities, not just the ability to integrate stuff from APIs and do some responses and make SOC analysts' life a little bit easier, but there's a lot more that goes into it as well. So SOAR, Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response, I better get it the right way around, seeing as I'm in the business, is firmly in Gartner's trough of disillusionment. Firmly. And we've just seen people that are doing automation, nobody's successful at the moment because of performance issues. We get discussions about performance all day long. Failed deployments, slow adoption. There's a whole range of different reasons that it's there. But we need to make better use of it. So how do you start looking at automation, and what do you do, and where do you focus your attention? Well, actually, we need to take a quick look at the progression of automation technologies. So SOAR's been around for quite some time. We class it as legacy SOAR. It's normally full code. It normally requires a lot of development time and a lot of resource to be able to cope with it. Then we get into security automation, and now we're in the AI-enabled security automation world. Just a quick one on AI from our perspective. Our strategy for AI is to allow it to help humans to make better and faster decisions, not to allow the AI to do the work for you. That's our goal. And if you want to come talk to us about that, we're around for all the day. But one term that I think we need to put in place is good enough. We talk to many customers who say, well, actually, I've got some automation in the different tools that I've got. It might be good enough. There is no such term as good enough in cybersecurity. It's not good enough for your different tools. It is not good enough for your risk profile for the organization. It is not good enough for the different use cases that you might have. So there are many different use cases that you can utilize inside cybersecurity and outside of the SOC that can reduce your risk. Vulnerability management is one example. Compliance that we heard about earlier on today. So looking at compliance. The onboarding and offboarding. So it's a standard thing that all organizations, I'll get my teeth in a minute, need to deal with. But actually, it's a big process flow that's manual in most organizations. So for us, we believe that there's a new era of security operations is coming. Well, actually, it's not coming. It's here. We're here now. And we talk about the security of automation being what we call the SecOps trifecta. So you've got automation, you've got low code, and you've got AI. The combination of those will massively increase the ability for you to use automation and for you to actually use it successfully. So what do you need to have in your automation toolbox? You need to have tools that have infinite integrations, so the ability to integrate with any tool now and in the future. So you can't be limited in terms of what tools you can take into it, what data you can take in. It needs to be modular. It needs to be a complete solution, not just being able to give you a view of what's happening, but allow you to do response, allow you to do BI. So business intelligence inside the SOAR, inside the security automation platform, to allow you to see how your program is doing, what's successful, what's not successful, and be able to report that back up to the board as well. So it's not just about the actual analysts, it's right the way up through the managers, into the directors, up to the board, to make sure you get all that information backwards and forwards. So we talk about being a system of record, so having all of the data for the security platform, being enterprise class, having robust data isolation if you need it. So we have about 40 to 50% of our businesses that work with us are MSSPs. They're dealing with companies in different industries, in different regions, and they need data separation between those organizations as well. We also have enterprises that want to do that as well. But having the capability to do that inside the platform and standard is really, really important. But actually, what's more important is how do you then use it? So where do you start your journey? How do you understand where you should start to automate? How do you focus on what are the quick wins for you? what's the journey that you're going to take and what's your end goal. Now, security automation is not a destination. It is a journey. You will never get where you're going. You will always be on the road. But you need to make sure that you're doing it in the right way. So we've come up with what we call, our marketing team have come up with a wonderful term, automation, readiness, maturity of orchestrated resources. That's a nice, easy one. I'd much rather we called it chickens in a vacuum or something like that. But it's actually really important, because if you think about everybody that's looking at security automation, the first thing they do is, okay, what does the product do? Can it do this? Can it do that? Can it integrate with this system? Well, actually, the most important part of this is not just the features and functionality. It's about how you use it. It's about how you focus the time and where you put the effort in. So you need to look at where you are now across people, process, and technology, and then where you want to get to. And as part of this, we've put together a maturity model. So there's a 5-step model of maturity for orchestration. This ARMOR assessment, and this is something that we can do, we do this, we have an online assessment that you kick off with that then gets reviewed by a member of my team, the solutions engineering team, where we look at those questions and answers that you've provided. We put you into a bucket on that 5-step model, we give you a score, and then we give you some prescriptive ways to get started or move on to the next part of your journey. So that is given back to you in a presentation of here's the assessment, here's the details, and you can then use that internally to go and build a business case on this is why we should use automation, here's where we should focus our attention, here are the steps that we need to take. Because a lot of problems, a lot of organizations have got a problem trying to benchmark their security against other organizations. So we're adding to this process. So right now, this is an individual process for different organizations. We're adding to this. So later on, we're going to also have the ability for us to do a future evaluation. So that future evaluation will look at what are the steps that you've taken, how successful they've been, and also a benchmark on how you're benchmarked against other organizations that have done the same process. So have you had as much success? Have you been able to report that information back up to the board in the way that you need to? So it really is about working out what the journey is going to be, building a roadmap, helping you along that roadmap. So it really isn't just about features and functions. We've got some software to sell you. This is more important for me than the actual, just the product capabilities. But if you want to know about the product capabilities, come talk to us later. Managed to squeeze in well in the 15 minutes today, which is good. But any questions? No? Anybody want to do automation successfully? There's got to be some hands that got to go up. Yeah.
Can I ask you?
Yes.
You mentioned SecOps. Do you do anything in the sort of DevSecOps area as well? Because user-developed apps, or even more formally developed apps within organizations, organizations just can't help themselves.
So from our perspective, our platform has been designed to be able to integrate and automate anything. It isn't specifically designed to do SecOps or DevSecOps, but it can be used for many different use cases. We have, let's say from a DevOps perspective, we've got organizations that utilize it to determine readiness of a platform before they put it into production. So there's a set of gates that it has to go through. Those are all automated. Those have to be checked off before you can actually put it into production. That's just one use case. So you have the ability with a low-code security studio, so the ability to build this out in a low-code way, so you can automate any of those and build your own use cases.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Super, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Sarah.